Bonjour tout le monde. On va voir notre leçon aujourd'hui. Je vais vous introduire vos deux prochains travaux. Et ensuite, demain matin, on va voir notre dernière leçon avec votre dernier travaux. Tous les deux travaux que j'ai introduits aujourd'hui vont être corrigés par moi et vont compter vers votre note finale. Le CV, son résumé, va être dû demain et les questions d'entrevue vont être dues vendredi avec votre projet de recherche de carrière. Okay, oui, ça va commencer avec le CV. Vraiment, aujourd'hui, la feuille de travail est essentiellement juste de faire votre CV, d'écrire votre résumé. Il n'y a pas d'autre travail dans la feuille de travail, c'est simplement de l'information sur comment écrire votre CV. So today we're going to look at a resume, which is kind of the first part of applying for any job. And really today's work is just to write a resume. So you don't have to, there's no kind of other stuff to do. That's all you have to do. You do have to write one in French and English, so you can start with whichever one and then just translate the other. And then we're going to look at some interview questions. And that will be due on Friday along with your final research project. OK, so ici, il y a des liens qui a de l'information sur écrire un CV. Un CV, c'est quoi? C'est un curriculum vitae. C'est un des outils les plus importants d'une recherche d'emploi. Ici, vous allez trouver de l'information sur les différents types de curriculum vitae qui convient le mieux à votre situation. Okay, a resume is, like I said, it's one of the kind of the biggest tools of kind of finding a job or applying for a job. It's one of the main kind of documents that you provide to your employer. And this page has information on different types of resumes. So again, depending where you are in your life with your work experience, you might use a different type of resume. C'est quoi un curriculum vitae? C'est un court document de style télégraphique qui renseigne l'employeur sur votre expérience professionnelle, vos études et vos compétences. Avant de rédiger votre curriculum vitae, vous pouvez examiner les compétences essentielles afin de savoir quelles sont les compétences que vous pouvez offrir à un employé. So what is a resume? It's basically a short it is a short document, kind of point form style that provides information to your potential employer about your professional experiences, your studies, your education and kind of qualifications, as well as your skills. Okay, so before kind of writing your resume, you want to make sure you look at that list of kind of essential competencies. So again, that's what I provided you earlier from the Government of Canada. It's a list of skills and competencies. That way you can kind of pick those to kind of best suit the needs of your potential employer. Il y a essentiellement trois types de curriculum vitae. So there's kind of three styles of resumes depending on your professional experiences. Il y a ici des exemples aussi. Le curriculum vitae fonctionnel, so this is kind of a functional resume. This puts your skills and competencies kind of at the forefront. Si vous n'avez pas une vaste expérience professionnelle, un curriculum vitae fonctionnel qui met en valeur vos compétences est un bon outil pour vous faire valoir auprès d'éventuels employeurs. Au lieu de mettre l'accent sur votre expérience professionnelle, il met en évidence les compétences transférables que vous avez acquises dans le cadre de vos emplois, vos activités, vos expériences ou en tant que bénévole. Okay, so this is a resume or a style of resume that you would use if you don't have a great deal of work experience. So, for example, this is probably a style that most of you would want to use. You've either had maybe one or two kind of part-time jobs or occasional jobs, babysitting, kind of walking the dog, maybe things like that, helping neighbors out. You have, like I've mentioned before, you have skills, you have developed skills at school, in your volunteer work. in your various teams and clubs. And so this type of resume will allow you to kind of showcase that without kind of putting to the front that you don't have a great deal of actual work experience. So ici, on a en français et en anglais, on va avoir un sommaire. Okay, so vous pouvez, si vous voulez, vous êtes bienvenu d'utiliser ceci, copier et le mettre dans un document Word. Vous pouvez utiliser ce format ou vous pouvez utiliser un format de votre choix. Okay, so you're welcome to copy and paste this into a Word document or Pages. Use this formatting if you want. But again, a lot of there are websites out there that will format resumes for you. The Word has templates, Canva has templates. So again, you're welcome to kind of use any of those. Et ici, quand vous mettez votre adresse, il n'est pas nécessaire pour moi, essentiellement, de mettre votre adresse et votre numéro de téléphone. Vous pouvez mettre votre ville et votre province si vous voulez, et le courriel que vous utilisez, mais je n'ai pas besoin de votre numéro de téléphone ou votre adresse de maison. Okay, so kind of your home address and your phone number for me for this resume is not necessary. You can just put your city, your province, and the postal code, as well as your email address. That's okay. Some places say that some sites will say that you don't need your home address on a resume, but you do want to make sure that you provide your contact information so that if a potential employer wants to reach out to you for an interview or to ask more questions, they can get a hold of you. So ici, on commence avec un sommaire de vos habiletés. Okay, so you're going to start with a summary of your skills. So you're going to pick out 3 skills that you possess that you are kind of quite comfortable in and you can kind of show off. Again, a resume is a chance for you to show off your skills and your capacities, your abilities. So you want to make sure that you pick kind of your best skills. Il est très important de lire ce que l'employeur demande. So read the job posting, and the job posting often has clues in it. They will say what you need to possess. And so you want to make sure that you kind of tailor your resume to that. Okay, so again, the goal with this assignment is that if you don't already have a resume, that you will come out of this class with a resume that you can use when you are ready to apply for a part-time job or whatever, right? Or a summer job or something like that. So this is something that you will be able to use for real in your life. This will be kind of your starting point, and then what you're going to want to do, because every job is slightly different, you're going to kind of want to change or just modify your resume slightly to kind of suit the needs or the requirements of that job. Okay. Aussi, si vous avez déjà, je crois que j'ai déjà mentionné ceci, si vous avez déjà un résumé ou un curriculum vitae, si vous avez déjà une lettre de présentation, vous êtes bienvenu de l'utiliser et de me le remettre. Okay. Il n'est pas nécessaire de commencer de nouveau. Okay, so if you already have a resume, if you already have a cover letter, you don't need to kind of redo them. I would ask that you update them, just add anything that is maybe new to them, but you can totally use that. I don't expect you to kind of rewrite a brand new resume and cover letter if you already have one. So ici, vous allez écrire un sommaire. So, quels sont vos aspects professionnels, vos caractéristiques professionnelles que vous possessez? Et quelles sont des choses que vous avez qui sont de valeur. So, par exemple, vous avez la capacité de parler dans une langue seconde. Okay, so you have a second language. So you want to make sure that you state that you are, you can communicate in French. That might be a benefit. If you have any licenses or certifications, like saying that you have if you have your first aid, or if you have your WMIS certification or health and safety stuff, things like that. If it relates, you can also say that you have your boating license or, eventually your driver's license, right? So if those kind of licenses or things that you possess relate to the job, make sure that you take that as a chance to kind of show off. Then you're going to kind of write your skills, identify what your skills are, and then provide some examples of how you have kind of showcased or developed those skills. Ensuite, vous allez décrire votre expérience. So, vous allez me donner le titre de votre emploi, quand avez-vous travaillé, et vous pouvez aussi décrire qu'est-ce que vous avez fait. Si vous n'avez et pensez aussi des emplois à temps partiel ou occasionnel, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be kind of an official kind of job. Maybe you babysit, right? Maybe you shovel maybe you get paid to shovel driveways or whatever, right? If you can kind of make it seem like you have work experience, do that. Si vous avez de l'expérience avec du bénévole, vous pouvez mettre ça aussi. So if you don't have any work experience, but you have volunteer experience, you can have a section that says volunteer experience. And again, those are all transferable skills. When you volunteer, you are told what to do and you do it. And some of it might be manual labor, some of it might be paperwork, some of it might be dealing with people, right? Again, those are all skills that transfer to the workplace. Ensuite, vous pouvez mettre votre éducation. So you can put your education. So you're going to put kind of your highest completed level of education. So let's say you have finished grade 9. You can put high school, grade 9 completed, and then you could put what year you are expecting to graduate, things like that. Okay, so voici un exemple avec le nom de quelqu'un et leur CV complété. Okay, so this is an example. And again, this is your blank template en français. Et voici votre exemple en français. Okay, so again, you've got lots of examples there that you can work from. Le prochain type est un curriculum vitae chronologique. So, si vous avez beaucoup d'expérience et vous voulez mettre votre expérience d'emploi au haut, vous faisiez ceci. So if you want to kind of showcase your kind of extensive work experience, then this is the type of resume you would have. This is probably something that you're going to use later in life. This is the type of resume I use. I've been teaching for over 20 years now. And so I want to make sure that I kind of, for example, when I applied to teach this course, I had to submit a resume and a cover letter. And so my resume, I kind of put my teaching experience at the top, at the forefront, because that's what I want to kind of showcase. And then I go from there. So, vous pouvez commencer avec votre éducation. Encore, si vous avez quand vous allez avoir votre éducation de collège, université, vous pouvez mettre ça là, votre éducation d'école secondaire. Et ensuite, vous allez mettre votre expérience. So, encore le titre de votre expérience, pour qui vous travaillez. Et ensuite, vous allez décrire quelles tâches que vous avez faites. Okay, so here, again, you want to kind of highlight your education and training. You want to highlight your job experience. So you're going to work kind of chronologically, but backwards. So you're going to put your most recent job. And this is the same for up here, is you want to put your most recent experience at the top and kind of work backwards going down your sheet. Okay, so you always want to make sure that you're providing the most recent kind of job and you're working your way back in time as you go down your resume. Et encore, vous avez la chance de mettre votre expérience de bénévole et vos accomplissements. Okay, so again, this is kind of an example. Le format en français ici et un autre exemple. Et finalement, vous avez le curriculum vitae hybride ou un curriculum vitae mixte. Ceci combine les éléments des deux. So this is kind of a hybrid or a mixed resume, and it kind of combines the two. So this is where you're somewhere in between kind of having had, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years of work experience, but you also kind of want to highlight the skills that you have, because maybe you're applying for your first kind of career job, but your work experience is maybe part-time jobs and kind of summer jobs and stuff like that. So encore, vous allez mettre votre éducation, votre expérience, vous allez avoir un sommaire, vous allez avoir vos compétences, et finalement, vous allez avoir votre expérience. Okay, so again, this is kind of a combination where you have your summary, your skills, and then your experience. Et voici encore des exemples. Le format en français et un exemple en français. Okay. So, des choses importantes à inclure et à ne pas inclure dans votre curriculum vitae. So, vous allez vous allez indiquer des renseignements personnels. Vous allez indiquer, encore, ça dépend, vous pouvez, il n'est pas toujours nécessaire d'indiquer votre adresse, mais votre ville est importante. Votre numéro de téléphone et une adresse de courriel. Okay, so, and again, you want to make sure when you are kind of including your email address, that your email address is professional. Don't necessarily use the email address that you created in grade 6 that you thought was really funny and cool, but maybe now when you are in grade 9 or 10, is maybe not something that you want as your kind of professional facing email, right? Vous allez mettre vos études, so quelles sont vos qualifications, quelle est votre éducation. Vous allez avoir vos compétences et votre expérience. So again, you're going to want to make sure that you have your skills and your experience in there. And then autres renseignements pertinents. So again, think about what the job is and what kind of you have, if you have, like I said, other experiences or qualifications or certifications, or you've taken courses that you think are important, make sure you kind of add those in there. If you're, for example, if you are comfortable or have taken courses with like Photoshop or you know, whatever software, and that job kind of requires you using that software, make sure you find a way to kind of put that into your resume. So ici, il y a 10 conseils pour la rédaction d'un curriculum vitae. So these are 10 tips, so you can kind of read through that. So n'attendez pas à la dernière minute. So don't wait until the last minute to submit your resume. Kind of often there will be a deadline for your resume submission. You don't necessarily want to wait till the end. Just get it in there, first of all, so that nothing happens and you don't forget and you don't get it in on time. But also you don't want to kind of have your potential employer thinking that you're always kind of at the last minute. Faites certain d'adapter votre curriculum vitae. So lisez ce que l'emploi demande et faites certain que votre curriculum vitae rencontre ses demandes, right? So adapt your resume, make sure that you're meeting what kind of the job posting is asking for. Répartissez l'information. So alors ceci doit être en style télégraphique. So you don't want to write huge paragraphs. This is kind of point form. You want to use full sentences, but you want to kind of be succinct. You want to be kind of to the point. And if you have lots of information, make sure you kind of break it up into chunkable, readable sections. Utilisez des mots d'action. So again, make sure you use action words. Relisez-vous. So reread, get other people to kind of reread your resume. You don't want to have spelling mistakes. You don't want to make grammar mistakes. Those are important things. Refaites ce qui est indiqué au point numéro 5. So again, redo number 5, which is reread, get other people to read. Again, it's really important that this is potentially your first impression for an employer, and you want that impression to be as good as possible. Soignez la présentation. Faites certain que votre curriculum vitae paraît net et est organisé. Utilisez un papier blanc de lettres de format lettres, une police de caractères facile à lire. So you want to make sure that it is well presented. If you are kind of handing in a paper resume, make sure it's on white paper. Again, you want to be professional. You don't want to kind of print it on fluorescent pink paper. You want to use kind of black. The colors matter. You don't want to use kind of rainbow text and bubbly font. You want to make sure that the font is easy to read. Soyez concis. encore, essayez de garder votre information sur une seule page, au plus deux pages, right? So again, try and keep everything on one page. Be concise in what you are saying. Again, if your employer gets let's say 20 resumes for one job, and your resume is a 5-page resume, they're most likely not going to read all of them, right? Like, you have to understand that this is something that they want to get through fairly quickly. They want to be able to kind of skim and scan through, and you want to kind of grab their attention. Okay? Soyez honnête. Ce n'est jamais une bonne idée de mentir dans votre curriculum vitae. So again, you always want to make sure that you are honest. You want to kind of promote yourself in the best possible way, but you want to make sure that in doing so, you are not kind of lying and saying things that you haven't done. Okay, because if they go back and check on that, then that's no good for you. And then soyez professionnel. So again, you are applying for a job. If this person hires you, you need to understand that they want someone that will represent their business in a professional, positive manner. So again, make sure that that is what you are putting forward. So, le travail, vous allez composer votre propre CV en anglais et en français. Vous pouvez le mettre dans la Dropbox comme 2 documents séparés, ou vous pouvez le mettre dans le même document, c'est à votre choix. Okay? Encore juste un aide-mémoire ici, so this is just kind of a checklist. Okay, so that is that. Et voici le travail pour l'entrevue. Okay, so il y a essentiellement 3 parties à avoir à se chercher un emploi. So there's kind of 3 parts to kind of the job hunting process. There is your resume, which we've looked at, which is kind of a snapshot of your experience, your education, and your skills. There is a cover letter, which we will look at tomorrow, and that is essentially kind of an opinion essay as to why you are the best person for this job. And then if the employer kind of reads both of those things and thinks, you know what, I want to see what this person has, if they fit, then you have an interview, which is usually a face-to-face meeting. Lately, sometimes they are virtual, like a video conference. They can be a virtual interview, which is actually what I had for summer school. And so this assignment will kind of look to get you ready for that. So voici des points importants à se rappeler avant, pendant et après une entrevue. So faites certain avant de l'entrevue de vous renseigner sur l'entreprise. Entraînez-vous, so préparez-vous, pratiquez. Faites certain de préparer des questions que vous souhaitez poser. Faites certain de soigner votre apparence et votre tenue vestimentaire, et assurez-vous d'arriver en avance. Okay, so 5 things to do before is make sure you kind of do a little bit of research on the company. You want to know kind of what they do, how they operate. It might not be a bad idea to kind of go and kind of not announce yourself, but if you're looking to work at a grocery store, go to the grocery store, kind of see how things work, things like that. You want to practice your interview skills. So again, ask your parents, ask a friend to ask you some questions, and you can kind of practice answering them. It's not a bad idea to have some questions ready ahead of time. Most interviews, almost always, will, after they ask you questions, will ask if you have questions. Again, things that you kind of want to know, maybe what type of hours to expect, kind of where you might work, what kind of tasks you'll have, things like that. Your appearance and the clothes you wear are important. So again, make sure you kind of dress for the job that you want. Yes, again, and you always want to kind of err on the side of caution. If you're not sure, always maybe dress maybe a little bit more formally than you think you might need. And then make sure that you're always there a little bit early. It's much better for you to wait for the person to be ready to interview you than for them to wait for you. And you don't want to show up a half hour early. You want to make sure you show up 5 or 6 minutes before your supposed interview. So pendant l'entrevue, détendez-vous, soyez vous-même, répondez aux questions complètement et avec calme, posez des questions pour mieux connaître l'entreprise et demandez quand vous pouvez espérer avoir des nouvelles. So the first one's hard. You want to make sure that you try and relax. You want to be yourself. You want to make sure that you answer questions completely and with calm. And something that I would recommend, and something that I've interviewed a great deal over my career, is to listen to the question. It's okay to pause for a moment, maybe 4 or 5 seconds, kind of think about the answer in your head, maybe take a deep breath, and then calmly just go about and answer your question. Again, asking questions to better understand how the company works, things like that. It shows interest in the company. And then kind of finish by asking, when you might hear either way the results of the interview. Après l'entrevue, notez comment vous pourriez vous améliorer pour votre prochaine entrevue et expédiez rapidement une lettre ou courriel de remerciement à la personne qui vous a reçu en entrevue et exprimez-lui combien vous avez apprécié votre rencontre. Des fois, pas une bonne idée, ça dépend de l'entrevue ou de l'emploi. So things to do after the interview is kind of think to yourself, kind of self-reflect about how most likely this will not be your last interview. How can you do better? What are things that you can improve on in your next interview? And then again, depending on kind of the situation, you can always send a thank you letter or email, just thanking them for the interview and just your appreciation for the opportunity. But again, that kind of depends. You'll get a feel or a sense if the person is kind of receptive to that or not. So ceci sont une variété de vidéos que vous pouvez visionner si vous voulez pour vous aider avec vos entrevues. This is kind of optional viewing. Et ensuite, finalement, ici, vous allez choisir, il y a essentiellement 4 types de questions dans une entrevue. Je veux que vous en choisissez 2 par section et vous allez écrire votre réponse. Okay, so vous pouvez imaginer pour votre entrevue que vous interviewez pour une des 2 carrières que vous avez choisies comme projet de recherche. Okay, so really, I don't particularly care what job you're applying for. If you currently have a job and you want to pretend you're applying for it, or if you have intentions of applying for a summer job, you can do that. Or you can choose one of the 2 kind of career options that you're researching for your project. Just let me know ahead of time kind of what job you're interviewing for. Okay, so you're going to choose 2 questions per part. So there are 4 parts. So you're going to answer 8 questions altogether, and you're just going to write out your answers as if you were speaking them. Okay, I think somewhere on here it says to make a video, but you don't need to make the video. That's fine. So la première est apprendre à se connaître. So again, you're going to kind of, these questions are about you and getting to kind of know you. And again, when you are writing your answers, kind of a one-line answer is not enough. If you want a good mark, I want a decent kind of paragraph. Kind of, again, you always want to kind of think about providing more information. You don't want to leave the interviewer thinking, I wish they had said more. Okay. Partie B, parle de vos expériences de travail. So what is your work experience? Part C, adaptabilité et style de travail. So how do you adapt to new situations? What is your work style? And then part D, personnalité et relations humaines. So part B is your kind of personality and how you interact with people. Okay, so et ensuite, voici. So again, this won't really kind of fit because this is more like if you were doing a video. So just, again, focus on providing me lots of detail in your information. Okay, so you are choosing two questions, and I'll put this on the LMS as well. I realize it's not on here just now. So you're going to choose 2 questions per part. And there are 4 parts, so that's 8 questions altogether. You're going to write that out and you're going to submit that by Friday. Okay. So, un rappel que ces 2 travaux ici vont être corrigés par moi. Le CV est dû par la fin de la journée demain, idéalement. L'entrevue, vous avez jusqu'à la fin de la journée vendredi, ainsi que votre projet de recherche. Demain, on va avoir notre dernière leçon ensemble. Ensuite, jeudi et vendredi vont être des journées de travail. Okay, so encore un rappel que si pour aucune raison vous n'allez pas avoir la chance de finir votre travail par vendredi, il est important de me laisser savoir avant vendredi, okay, pour qu'on puisse faire des arrangements. So again, kind of my firm deadline is Friday. If there's something kind of extraordinary that happens or is happening and you need some extra time, don't wait until Friday, please, to let me know. Let me know beforehand so I'm aware and we can kind of make arrangements and plans for that. OK, so je crois que c'est tout. So n'oubliez pas, si vous avez des questions, si vous avez besoin de l'aide, n'hésitez pas à m'envoyer un courriel. OK, merci tout le monde. À demain.